Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Well, hello there, it's Dr. Gemma, and this is episode 232 of the Cognitive Podcast. And greetings to you from 7:51 p.m. on, Wednesday, May 7th, 2025. Your comments are very welcome. Please feel free to comment on the blog at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com, or you can go to our group on Ravelry, which is where most people land when they comment, I must say. In the warm thanks department, well, got a lot of them this week. First, thank you to Sage Pecos. Welcome to my flock on Finch. I'm pretty sure you're one of our listeners because I seem to remember thanking you last week. And I don't know who S is, who is associated with a finch named Mango, but welcome to you too, little bird. If you are one of our listeners, if you're not, I'm just talking into empty air. Thank you very much. Meanwhile, our own tried and true Chrisa identified my rather superb cup of tea at the Japanese restaurant last week as genmaicha, which contains brown rice. And I'm sure she's absolutely right about that. Sounds familiar to me. Chris is also looking forward to seeing The Play That Goes Wrong very soon in Canberra. This is, of course, the original title of Peter Pan Goes Wrong. And she's obviously going to see it in Canberra. I would have to tell you, I would look forward to seeing anything in Canberra, including Chris and family. We can only dream. But in the meantime, warm congratulations on that designer jacket that you managed to thrift. And then there is our own Elaine, as in DC Elaine Knits. Elaine would like you to know that she is not in denial about her addiction to emotional support chickens. Oh no, she is not. She is definitely not buying sets of minis to make more of them. No, indeed. No, she's not. Just wanted to say, and they do look pretty cool. I have to send thanks out as part of my normal routine almost to Sal Pal, who put up a great post about trying to identify whether the noises in her Prius when she used to listen to the old series of the podcast belonged to her car or to the car I was recording in at the time, which was, of course, the infamous Prius of Love. I don't know either, Sal Pal, but I'm glad to know that I gave you even more car entertainment besides reading show notes in the car. And then there's absolutely one of my favorite things in years. Amy Storm completed the Imagined Landscapes Mystery Gnome. She had to hide it under a spoiler alert because not everybody's finished it. However, she said, hopefully you will find this flattering. Mine is named Dr. Gemma. Yes, kids, I'm a fungus. Here's what she said about it. Dr. Gemma Fungi studies the resilience of nature and the symbiotic relationships that form for organisms and their communities to thrive, especially in the face of adversity or natural disasters. She ends every lecture by reminding her students that they are a community, and by helping and strengthening their community, they are also helping themselves. I have to tell you honestly, Amy, I am so complimented. I can't remember the last time I got a compliment on this level. Also, I can't remember the last time I ever looked so good. That is, I did look under the spoiler alert, and my goodness, I make a good fungus. At any rate, you can go see this, and yeah, I'm going to admit it, I cried when I saw it. I was having a kind of crummy day, and I saw that somebody had memorialized me forever as a fungus. It just doesn't get better than that. Minerva has jumped in my lap. You may have just heard a little baby meow. She is commenting on the fact I need to keep stroking her head. And of course, I want to thank my community here in this listener group on the ground in the Santa Clarita Valley, and of course on Reddit. Y'all are making my life click along in the nicest possible way. I also want to remind you that the Cognitive Fiber Retreat, number 11, is scheduled for October 11th, 2025, so mark your calendars. Meanwhile, what's on my hooks and needles, you may be wondering? Ah, you crazy optimist, you think I finished something? No. And the stash toss, well, I added another one. Actually, I added another several because I finished all of my hand spun from Lisa Souza. So I wound it up very nicely, and you can see a picture of all three skeins together. That is the second picture. The top picture is the BFL plied with the cashmere. They're slightly different colorways related to the theme of blackberries. The middle picture you can see on the very top is a very dark skein. That is pure BFL in the colorway Black Bowie from Lisa Souza. On the very bottom you can see it's artificially pinkish. That is the 3-ply of the BFL. And on the middle picture, if you look at the middle, there's 3 skeins piled up. The one on the bottom right, that is the skein of 1-ply of the camel hair silk against 2 plies of the Black Bowie BFL from Lisa Souza. So there you go. And just to make things special, I did get a large ball of Noro because it was just beautiful and I saw it as a shawl right away. This is Noro Natsumiki. This was from Wool House in Pasadena, so you know we will be reviewing a yarn shop in this episode, don't you? Yes, you do. Next, you can see my progress on my emotional support animal chicken, the ES chicken, the emotional support chicken. As you can see, I have the whole body done. I have not put the beak on it. The beak seems to be joined right at the very top of that, and then you fold it in half and sew the beak shut, which gives the body the actual chicken shape it's about to have. Of course, you stuff it and then seam it. So that's pretty exciting. After that, there is a comb and a wattle for under the neck. Very, very small, very easy work, so of course I haven't done them. The novice slipover is just rolling right along. It is essentially finished, except it needs its neckline ribbing and the armhole ribbing. And I need to get to the bottom and do the bottom waist ribbing. So this is just my popcorn knitting when I'm at home. This is just the easy stuff. And the Blue Iris Blueberry Waffle socks, these are really cranking. I'm now done the leg of number 2 and I'm midway on the foot. This is my travel knitting because now it is just stockinette around the foot. So this is very easy and pleasant. And then there's the Virgo sweater. Okay, in the notes I say onto the sleeves, well, maybe next week. I'm lying a little bit. I started a sleeve last night. I really enjoyed it too. It was really refreshing to get back to it. Really felt good to get those sleeves picked up, or at least one sleeve picked up and on the needles again. No work on anything else, including the quilt squares, because I'm waiting for the warmer weather. And I'm just going to finish up a bunch of things, I hope, without starting anything new, quilting or knitting or crocheting. Dizzy Blondes, as you can see, I have finished all the Lisa Souza in the Black Bowie. So now I am moving on to my second braid of camel hair silk, which starts with a big blob of purple, but then basically becomes kumquat colored. And I have some coincidentally kumquat colored Lisa Souza BFL that I expect to spin and ply the whole thing with. We will see how that goes. All of this is being done on my Electric Eel 6.1. Having a great time with it. Okay, on to a strategy. Well, let me start with the Finch. And we have another edition, Monica and Burb. I don't know if Monica is one of us. I suspect she is. And I'm sorry I missed you up in the warm thanks. But otherwise, the strategy is, it is spring, and in spring, we want to refresh things. And what amazes me is how this seems to be a natural instinct. There are a lot of religious faiths that celebrate some kind of festival. In Christianity, it's Easter. But everybody is celebrating something, and a lot of faiths include a ritual of cleansing the house before you begin the actual celebration. Now, where I grew up, that's called spring cleaning. Everybody talked about it when I was growing up. I grew up in a world full of stay-at-home wives and mothers, and so at this time of year, you would see everybody really tearing everything apart and getting into the corners and dusting and vacuuming and all that stuff. And that is a natural instinct, as far as I can tell, because a lot of cultures seem to do it and seem to think it's important. I think it makes sense because at this time of year, the days are getting longer. We have more daylight and we can see into those dark corners to clean them. So it really does make sense that humans seem to have a drive to do this. So you can also imagine why I'm so surprised that people resist it. People talk about, well, I'm not going to spring clean this year, or I don't want to go along with the crowd, or, I don't have to do this just because a lot of people do it. Don't fight your instincts. Don't fight your instincts. This is good for you. If you have allergies, this is great for you. If your kids have allergies, if you have dust and mold issues, this is the time you get rid of it. So this is a time to refresh and clean things. This involves, in our complicated world, a lot of things you might not think about. For example, this is a fine time to go through all your old files on your computer and get rid of those. If you are like me and you're from the era of paper charts in your health record, it's time to get rid of those. I already did that, you may remember, about a year and a half ago now? And I have to tell you, I'm glad I don't have to do it again, but this is a great time to do it. This is a time to handle things a little bit at a time. Yes, spring cleaning, if you're in America, evokes this image of tearing the house apart, doing heavy labor, pulling everything apart, and really suffering. And of course, this is why people are resisting it. Now, you don't have to do that. You can do what I do, just 15-minute projects. But if you take a day and you stack your 15-minute projects and you put a reward between each project, you'd be amazed what you could get done. So I'm going to use my day today because I'm really dealing with that urge. So, I got up this morning, I cleaned a toilet, I set up my work day, I got cleaned up, took a shower and all that good hygiene stuff. And then I went outside and I planted 4 of my creeping thyme. And then I went back in the house and I saw 2 patients. And I did all my notes. I did a report because I had an hour off unexpectedly. So I did a bunch of reports and stuff. Then I went outside and found my new box of creeping thyme and my new box of sage, Russian and Texas, had arrived. So I also spent 5 minutes unpacking that box, which took a lot of unpacking. And then I would go out and plant a couple more of the thyme. And then I would go and dispose of bits of the trash from unwrapping all the plants. So I did that for about 30 minutes. Then I went in and made lunch and had it and enjoyed it. And then there were 2 more patients. And by the way, yes, I'm logging everything on the Finch apps as I go, having a great time. And in the background, I was doing a load of my own laundry and then some of our towels for the week. I always do half on Wednesday and half on Friday. So, I get to the end of the day, I've got all the plants unwrapped. I've got most of the creeping thyme is in the ground. And I was so enthused, I started walking around and scoping out how well I had buried the other ones, which made me realize I had not buried some of my early creeping thyme plantings well enough. So I went back and reburied those. And I also went and noticed that I could water everything. And the first creeping thymes that I planted a few days ago are taking. You can see they're suddenly getting brighter and greener and growing out. And the spearmint patch is doing beautifully. So as you can tell, one of the tasks I did was a quick walk through the garden to see how everything was going. So it was a pretty full day. I got all my charting done. I got reports done. I saw my patients. I did quite a few reports when I look back at it, actually. And I did a repair job on 2 charts, actually, on treatment goals. And then I went around and I planted a lot of stuff, opened a lot of packaging, watered a lot of stuff, inspecting and figured out where I go next. Really astonishing. This is spring cleaning at its best, starting the garden up and working through my caseload and working around my house. It did not feel particularly hard because in between I was having some of my cans of sparkling water and I was letting myself knit a little bit and sort through my yarns and figure out where I'm going next and update this and that. Okay, that's my version. And the idea is you don't have to do it all at once, but if you do it in 15-minute increments or some increment that you like, and you keep praising yourself and rewarding yourself. For me, the finch is a huge reward. So is the sparkling water. So is just browsing through plant catalogs, although I think I've bought everything I'm going to buy for plants this year, and making plans for going to a craft fair this weekend. So there are a lot of ways to reward yourself, but get out there, do your refresh work, and do it a little bit at a time. Just because you want to do spring cleaning doesn't mean you've got to kill yourself working, 4 or 5 straight hours with no breaks and no rewards. And you should apply this to a few things. Maybe it's time to start revising your to-do list. Maybe it's time to review what your immediate goals are. Maybe it's time to go take a class, learn something new. The idea here is refresh and renew for spring means a lot more than just spring cleaning. But spring cleaning itself is a great metaphor for what everybody wants to do this time of year. Plan your summer vacation. Whatever, do something that makes you feel refreshed and updated. Okay, let's roll on to Project Green Fingers. Well, and that is, of course, right now, I'm calling it Project Spearmint, but to be honest, yes, I got more creeping thyme and some penstemon and some Texas salvia and some Russian sage as ground covers from High Country Gardens. And now, as I told you, I have been unpacking them. This is going to take quite a few days to get going on, but that's okay. The other thing, I got an early Mother's Day present. My husband gave me big trimmers for our rose bushes. And so, yes, I'm spending 5 minutes a day cutting out all the dead wood off the china and the teacup rose bushes. They look a lot better. I didn't realize that until I went out there today. I still have a lot of cleanup because I'm not cleaning up. I'm just throwing weeds on the ground. So I do have to dedicate a couple days to taking a garbage bag down our little wooden walkway that I made a few years ago and picking everything up and getting rid of it. But right now, I'm just enjoying planting as fast as I can so my plants don't die, and also trimming back the roses, and also about 5 minutes of weeding every day to keep the spearmint patch free. So this has worked really well. Now, we do seem to actually be finished the really cold nights here, which is making me feel great, because that was my biggest fear, was that I was planting things and it was too cold out. So that feels like it's ending. It feels like our nights are now in the high 40s and 50s Fahrenheit. Brits, good luck. Figure it out. Canadians, sorry about that. Okay, if you look in the show notes, you'll actually see a picture of the Russian sage on the right, and on the left is the newest creeping thyme in flower. This Russian sage is what I bought 2 years ago that did seem to make it here. I am looking eagerly at where I planted it last to see if it's coming back for a third year, but it did come back well last year. Meanwhile, let's get on to offshoot, shall we? Well, I am still hiking Los Angeles on the weekend. And so this past weekend, I went down to Glendale because what I really wanted to do was go to a craft maker show in Pasadena at the convention center. And the Maps app, which is usually pretty good, gave me the hard way. They wanted me to go all the way down to downtown Union Station and then backtrack up north on the A train to Pasadena. I really felt like that was the hard way. It seems to me that the convention center and almost everything else I'm interested in Pasadena happens to be on Colorado, and Colorado runs right into Glendale. In fact, it runs right across the top of the Glendale Galleria where I like to go. So I thought, surely there's a bus that covers that. Surely there is. So I went to the Galleria, got off, had a lovely lunch, roamed through Barnes & Noble, and then I went over to Pasadena, but my first stop was going to be Wool House on Colorado. And then I figured I would backtrack to the show. I never did get to the show, but I had a lovely experience, which I will tell you more about. And then on Sunday, I just said, I'm going to go back to Pasadena. No, I didn't get away from the Galleria. I really didn't. I just went back, had a huge lunch. I went very, very late because I was talking to a friend on a Zoom call in the morning. So I went very late. So I just went down to the Galleria, hung out, had a great salad, and, roamed again through Barnes & Noble because it's 3 stories tall. I'm not going to run out of roaming to do. Okay, now this time, too, when I went down to Pasadena on the Saturday, I should say, you can get to Pasadena as I described, the Metrolink to Glendale, that is the railroad train. Then you pick up a bus and it takes you right down Colorado Boulevard through Eagle Rock. It's really great. And you end up there. That's great. However, you can't get home that way. There really isn't a bus that does that same thing. There is an express bus that goes down the freeway, but that takes away part of the fun for me. I can't explain it. So I decided, let's find out how you use the A train and Union Station. So I did indeed pick up the A train near where I was wandering around on Colorado Boulevard. It took me to LA Union, which is, of course, the end of the line. And then I took that train, it backtracked past Glendale again, and I went home. The only problem was we had a little excitement on the train. They nearly hit somebody on the tracks in a very unpopulated area. We were not on any kind of railroad crossing. And so I've never been on a train that went that fast. The engineer decided we were going too slow and we'd been held up while they waited for whoever that was to get off the tracks. They don't seem to have hit them. And then we went zippity doo-dah as fast as you can imagine. I got real nervous when we were doing it in the tunnel, but we all arrived safely. So that was my hiking. I will get on to the Wool House review in a minute. But you can see my calendar upcoming. We have the Forever Brave 5K on May 25th. I'm hoping I'll be over the cold that I'm clearly getting right now by then. And you can see the rest of my running calendar. It'd be nice if I would go out and run. Instead, I am working away on my bike desk every day. But that's okay. I get in about half an hour on that, and that's making me feel fit and ready to go out there and start running. We shall see. Meanwhile, in the fluffy books, in my Georgette Heyer thing, I am listening at night to the Nonsuch. And all I can think of is how similar it is to Black Sheep. That the Nonsuch is about, of course, a guy who's considered what used to be called in the slang a Nonsuch. He's the perfect guy. He's an athlete, great horseman, good fox hunter, all that good stuff. And, of course, he is the definition. And so you're watching him. He is polite. He is kind. He is socially able. He can manage everybody in the book. He's really, really good at maneuvering people, but fortunately, he's kind. And of course, what you're supposed to pick up is so is the female lead. But she is doing it in an early 19th century Regency way for a woman to do it. In other words, she also is a Nonsuch. Now, the interesting thing is this is, of course, the same plot as Black Sheep, except in that book, they're the black sheep of the family. And as you watch the black sheep, you realize the rest of the family isn't exactly good. And yet these two have been labeled the black sheep. Turns out they're just the most honest people. They stand out from the herd because they're being true to themselves and to their idea of love. The Nonsuch, I suspect, was written earlier. It's the same idea, but it's going the other direction. These are the non-pareil. These are the people who are the best. And you realize that the woman is that too. She's quiet, she's ladylike, she doesn't have a high social status, but she's so worthy. So, of course, the very high, wealthy social status Nonsuch is going to be attracted to her. You can see that in the beginning. And you begin to realize that they are being played against all these other types, including a dandy, a spoiled brat, several spoiled brats, a decent younger man who's looking up to the Nonsuch, a decent younger woman who's looking up to a good role model in her parents, who are the rector and his wife of the parish. It's a very parallel thing, but it's in the direction of virtue, as opposed to the direction of what makes a person stand out through being a allegedly bad person when they're actually just different. Okay, I did finish Simon the Cold Heart. It's pretty predictable from beginning to end. The interesting thing, Simon calls himself Beauvalet, and his half-brother is Malvalet, and so Simon picks the name Beauvalet, and they become friends, and the half-brother points out the joke, in case you're not getting it. Simon calls himself the beautiful or the good, as opposed to the evil or the bad. Okay, well, it turns out there's another book called Beauvalet, and it's, oh boy, it's swashbuckling 16th or early 17th century. Okay, I'm reading it. I have to say I'm having the same response I had to Simon the Cold Heart. He is a model of chivalry, even though he's a pirate. Yeah. You could probably predict this one from end to end. I'm not expecting anything great here. I've really learned that with Heyer, I am not a big fan of her historical romances. I also listened to one of her mystery novels, and it was called Envious Casca. And of course, if you know who Casca is, and that's Casca in Julius Caesar, I think is her model, you know right away who did the crime. So it was okay. It was a radio drama put on by the BBC that I got a recording of. But again, from the very beginning, you're like, okay, here's who it has to be. You can't miss it as long as you have some knowledge of the classics or of Shakespeare or of both. You know, Sir Thomas North, Shakespeare's classical source for the, Latin and Roman heroes. Okay. But surprisingly, we have a tea tasting this week. I found a bag of Blood Orange Reflections Herbal. And of course, this is Plum Deluxe. This is Hibiscus Rose Hips Orange Peel Blood Orange Essence. That's what it's supposed to be. It wasn't. It was rosemary mint. Honest to Pete, we had a quality assurance blip. There is no way that rosemary tastes and certainly smells like anything in that Blood Orange Reflections. It was hilarious. It was delicious. It was rosemary mint. I do not have the most sensitive palate in the world, but I am here to tell you, even I couldn't get this one wrong. Okay, something I really like, The Goes Wrong Show on YouTube. Yes, the same people who brought you Peter Pan Goes Wrong, or The Play That Goes Wrong, they had their own show on the BBC. I'm thinking it was about 2 seasons. The shows are on YouTube with commercials, but they're very, very brief commercials, and it is more of the same. It is hilarious. I don't know how these actors do this stuff without getting killed. And there's so much slapstick. There's a lot of moments where somebody steps on a board and it just goes straight up on its short end and the other end hits them in the face. How these actors do this while acting like they don't know it's about to happen, that's the one that amazes me, just like the bunk bed scene, how the actors on the lower bunks manage to perform knowing what's going to happen with those bunks. At any rate, if you really just need a good belly laugh, it's The Goes Wrong Show on YouTube. I also found a great article, 9 Ways You Can Save the Internet Right Now. This is for our Americans in the audience. When they say save the internet, they mean that literally. Store it up and save it. Because, of course, in the current regime, a lot of the internet records of the sciences and arts and history are being erased consciously by, let me slap myself in the forehead, our government. Now, there are a lot of ways these are being saved, and if you want to know more about that, go read the article. A lot of individuals have been stepping up for years because there was a perception this could always be a possibility. I think we just didn't realize how deep and badly it would go. So if you're curious about that, go read 9 ways If you're curious about that, go read 9 ways you can save the internet right now. I found it extremely interesting. How much of it am I doing? Well, I'm doing a lot of moving away from the cloud. That made me happy. Meanwhile, Project Proton, episodes 50A through 100 of the original series of Cognitive have now been zipped and loaded on my Proton drive. There is the link in the show notes if you would like to download any of them and listen. It comes in 5 files. Each is roughly 10, and they are each zipped. So you do have to know how to unzip them. That's fairly easy on any platform I know of. I'm also carrying forward the list of alternative search engines because I like it. And under that, by the way, if you're in the show notes, you'll see a picture of me on the train wearing my newest pair of reading glasses because, I hate to say it, I lose them easily, so I've been collecting them. On to the blather, shall we? I happen to be a fan of somebody on Instagram called the Shabby Creek Cottage. I believe she's an influencer across several, if not all, social media platforms. I do recommend the Shabby Creek Cottage. This was supposed to be, I guess, about shabby fashion, a thing in the U.S., sometimes called cottagecore. Okay, but she's got a social conscience. Yay, bless her. So this week she was very concerned about the tariffs between the U.S. and China. And so she said, please don't go out and panic buy. But there are cleaning supplies, and this is often overlooked in these discussions, that the cleaning supplies, it's not the actual cleaning substance, it's the packaging is coming to us largely from China. So she says, stock calmly, and gives a list. Now, what will happen to tariffs? I don't think we really know how this is going to play out, but there is a list of things that you should probably consider going after. In the meantime, my son is still in the chorus line of the Music Man. He now has his costume. That is all working out. He now is proud because he can dance through the longest number, which involves the famous song Shapoopy. And he can do this without getting it wrong, without passing out, because it is definitely an endurance test. Go watch the movie of the Music Man. You'll see what I mean. Then in my personal LA yarn crawl, I got to Wool House in Pasadena. Wool House is best described by the phrase carefully curated, yarny joy. In that feeling, it reminded me an awful lot of L'Atelier on Ventura that I went to last week, 2 weeks ago. It has that same feel, extremely warm. The owner, Uli, was terrific, supportive, and you walk around it and you think, pretty small area for yarn storage, but a lot of space to sort of gather and talk. No. Like L'Atelier on Ventura, this store really rewards a very slow, careful progression, looking at everything. I did not try hard to figure out the system of organizing the yarns, so I've got very little say on that. It did not seem the most clear organization to me, and I would say that because there was a lot of mohair and cashmere there. But when you go upstairs, first of all, you have to notice there is an upstairs, and yet people don't go up there nearly enough, and it's got a huge amount of stuff. So if you look at the pictures, the first picture is you walk in the front door, that's what you see. Okay, then the second picture is the upstairs. There's quite a selection up there, plus a big common knitting table. And if you look at the fourth picture, you will see they've devoted one of the short walls of the rectangular upstairs to an area for donated yarns and supplies for people who were affected by the recent fires in Altadena, because this is their local yarn store. I was very humbled and moved by that. I was very pleased to see that. Meanwhile, the third picture, that is the bottom row on the left, that's looking down at the store from the upper story, because I want you to see there is a lot of stuff there. It's just, when you look at the storefront, you don't realize how big this place is. Uli had a lovely selection of notions. Now, she had sets of crochet hooks, and they were good quality, but the cheapest was $35 for a set. I think it was Prim. You cannot buy a single hook there. This store is catering enough to crochet to help you out, but they are not really headlining crocheting the way some of the other stores have done. But she has a good collection of notions and supplies, and I think a crocheter could do very well in this store. I don't remember seeing acrylic blends, but I wasn't looking, to be fair. To me, this is a slightly high-end yarn store, and it should be. It is based in a fairly financially wealthy area, so she is going to cater to her audience there. But I went in there, I found a beautiful skein of the Noro, as I told you. I just bought one skein, and I just decided I was going to make one of the beautiful shawls I like to make when I crochet, and I was really, really happy with it. And I found some Noro in the back. She didn't have Rios. And I found some Malabrigo in the upstairs back wall. She did not have Rios, but she had their Chunky and one or two other types. So, okay, she's not a Rios supplier, but there's plenty of others who can do that I can go and find. On the whole, this is a great store. This is well worth your time. It's well worth scoping it out. It really depends on what you're into knitting. To me, the whole vibe was light, summery stuff. Now, this could be because of the time of year. I honestly can't say that she doesn't stock Rios. I was there at the wrong time of year. What she did stock was a beautiful range of nice luxury yarn that would go beautifully in like summer tank tops, lacy shawls, loose vests, things like that. If you want to make your summer knits, this is definitely a great place to be. And I cannot say enough how kind I found Uli and how supportive. So Wool House on Colorado in Pasadena, very, very worth going to see. The boycotts continue, and I think I've said before, they never really stopped for me at this point. I just realized that it's nice to do the boycotts. I think the funniest thing, and I wish I could remember who this content person is, there is some lady on Instagram. She holds her camera above her head, looking down at herself, and she says, "This is just a reminder that today you don't need to buy anything from," and name somebody, Amazon, Target, Tesla. She says, "You're only doing this because you're bored. Why don't you go find something good to do that'll make you feel good about yourself? You don't need to shop like this online. You can do other productive things." That's exactly how I feel about it. I feel like I found Finch and I have been working my way through all my sweatering. I am barely on social media. I realize like I have missed a whole lot of postings on Instagram because I went in, dipped in, and then was gone for 3 or 4 days. Same with Facebook. I say on the show notes, I'm on Blue Skies Dr. Gem. I haven't been there either. I am just so much happier when I don't. I have to limit my browsing because of all the political stuff. I can't go into work every morning getting depressed based on American politics. I can't do my job if that happens. So I have to really limit myself to a few minutes so that I can function in the other areas of my life. Meanwhile, you can see the links to the community resources, various books and resources that you can buy from if you need supplies on the internet, skills and techniques, and of course my own link tree. And you can also see my calendar. I have added Memorial Day on May 26th, Monday, to it. Hooray! That sounds like I might be looking up how we're going to do CFR 11 on that day. Okay, and you can also see a picture of Minerva. She's playing in my bathtub. I left the water in the bathtub and came in and found Minerva completely absorbed to the point where she's clearly ignoring me, looking at her reflection, patting it and playing with the water, and then brushing it across her face thoughtfully. This reminds me to tell you, since Minerva's going to get the last word, Minerva would like you to know that you should stay playful, and by playful, if you're a cat, that means curious. When you're interested in something, go examine it and play with it and be curious about it. Don't let the current environment get to you so much that you lose that creative and curious playfulness. Minerva says you should stay playful. Now, Minerva, of course, is going to point out, like any cat. So Minerva would really tell you, just be a cat. But she said that to you last week. In the meantime, all my cats and kittens, to quote my buddy Lex, I'm just going to say, remember, we are a community. It's Dr. Gemma Fungus time. We are a community. When we take care of the community, we are taking care of the individual. The community, when it is functioning, protects the individual and helps and supports the individual. So everybody, please remember, we are part of the community. Support your community. It's symbiotic. Remember that. In the meantime, everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.